Today I'm going to take a quick look at the Mandela Effect. There's an article here that explains it pretty well, and it says here at the top that the Mandela Effect is a type of false memory when many people incorrectly remember the same thing. And it was coined when supposedly a lot of people actually believed that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 1980s. Um, I must admit, I went to university in the late 1980s, and the Student Union building was actually named after Nelson Mandela. Not quite sure why, given that this was Wales and he was from South Africa, um, but it's typical kind of student union thing to do. And it is possible that I believed at the time that he was dead as well, and that's why the building had been named after him. If we go down here, we can see, you can read this all yourselves. I'll put the URL in the description as usual. So it describes the Mandela Effect again, and it talks about the causes. It talks about false memories. Now, it's well known now that human memories are actually quite frail and also kind of prone to mistakes and confabulation. So it will be no surprise that the Mandela Effect is caused by this. We go a bit further down, there's also confabulation that it talks about. Priming. Now the priming is an interesting one, because I have wondered whether the Mandela Effect may be partly that when somebody hears about this effect that they actually believe that they used to think he died, even though that may not actually be the case. So kind of almost like a meta Mandela Effect. Then of course there's the belief that some people have that the Mandela Effect could be a kind of evidence of an alternate reality or parallel universes, or even that we're living in a simulation and it's a kind of like a glitch in the matrix, effectively, that something in the simulation has either gone wrong or there's an update has gone through not smoothly, that kind of thing. The internet influence on here they talk about, and then it talks about various features of the effect and then examples. Now, one example I want to look at is that I'm a really big Laurel Hardy fan, and there's definitely a Mandela effect going on here in that Oliver Hardy often makes a particular quip to Stan when when Stan has got him into some kind of a pickle, and it's often misquoted. So ironically, this website here called Brainy Quote has actually got it wrong, and it says, "That's another fine mess you've gotten me into." Now, some of those words are part of the actual quote, but they're not actually quite correct. And then there's a kind of variation on this as well. So this newspaper article here where somebody's claiming that Ollie says to Stan, "This is a fine mess you've gotten us into." Again, that is actually incorrect. Now, I suspect that this may just be that at some point in the past somebody got this wrong, and it kind of gets spread as second-hand information, which I'm sure happens with a lot of things. It's also possible it actually occurs because one of the Laurel Hardy comedies is actually called Another Fine Mess, but even in that one, Ollie doesn't actually make the comment as these people quote it. Now, the actual quip that he makes in a kind of exasperated tone is to say, "Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into." And he actually does this in several other comedies. Now, there's a nice little compilation here on YouTube of these, so I'll just show a quick clip to illustrate the point.
Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into. What do you mean, I got you into? Well, your name's Laurel, isn't it? Well, only on my mother's side. You see, it was like this. Mother's side.
Here we go, another fine mess, one of their shots.
Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into. Yes, ma'am.
So I think that's quite a funny example of the Mandela effect. But I think Mandela effect is definitely worth reading about. It's quite an interesting effect of false memories and the way that the human brain actually can confabulate and get things mixed up. I mean, even with that example of Laurel Hardy, one of the comedies there where Stan retorts, about his name being Lowell, he retorts only on my mother's side. I was convinced that Ollie actually makes one of his kind of humph responses where he doesn't actually do it there. I think he does it in one of the others. So even a simple thing like that, which a person is quite familiar with me being a big fan of Laurel Hardy, you can still misremember things. Um, I mean, it would certainly be interesting if the Mandela effect was something to do with parallel universes or living in a simulation, but I suspect not.